Hey everyone, and today we've got a new role-playing game product we're gonna review on the channel. So it's very exciting, and it of course relates to something else we do on the channel here.
Yeah. Obviously, if you've been following the channel, you've been seeing a lot of Legend of the Five Rings, and that's been the card game. So that's great if you're a card game player. If you're maybe not as interested in card games, or if you've really been loving L5R, loving the lore, obviously there's a great overarching story to the game. You can dive deeper in here with a role playing game.
Yeah, so we picked this up for about 45 Canadian.
Yep.
Pretty good price. And yeah, you can see it's a reasonably sized box, pretty consistent with the box size for most beginner role playing games, if you're familiar with those. It's got some nice art on the front there.
Yeah, really nice art. In terms of the depth of the box, the width.
Yeah, pretty standard for this kind of product, both from FFG and from other companies.
Yeah, absolutely. And then nice art again on the back, displaying the components. We'll get into this. Don't worry. We'll give you a close, detailed look at all these components, but showing off what it comes with. That's the rule book and then the adventure book there.
So who's this product gonna be for?
So this is gonna be for someone who is new to role playing or new to Legend of the Five Ring role playing.
Yeah, so it comes with a series of adventures that are going to teach you the system as you play. It comes with a condensed form of the rules if you want a workable rule set to play with, but aren't sure if the game's for you, don't want to invest in the full core rule book, or are just happy playing with a more condensed set of rules. It's going to come with that for you. And then it's going to come with a series of maps, a series of tokens, and some nice pre-generated characters so you can jump right in. So like Max said, great if you've never role-played before.
Yeah.
Great if you've never role-played using this system or this setting before.
The dice system definitely being something of note.
Yeah. Of course, if you're an experienced role player, that doesn't mean you're going to be familiar with this particular system or setting. So this could also be a relatively affordable product for you to pick up. It comes with the in-system dice that you need. Those retail for honestly about a third of the price that this costs. So for 2/3 of the price, since you would have probably wanted to pick up those dice anyway, you're getting a lot of game contents here.
Yeah, I think good value. And again, if you are new to role playing, if you've really been enjoying the card game Legend of the Five Rings and you have a group who's interested, I think it's certainly worth giving a try.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I guess with that said, let's dive into the components.
Yeah, we'll show you guys a look. All right, so starting off with the box here, as we mentioned in the intro, typical standard size box. And we do have some complaints with it.
It's worth noting that you can immediately see that it's degrading. It has been opened 3 times, and the
especially right here.
Yeah, it's on the verge of serious structural defects already.
Yeah, and after 3 openings, even here you can see when I'm trying to open it, it's really bending. It's hard even kind of to get it open without feeling like you're really bending it quite considerably.
So we've taken the components out, but you can see we've had to leave that cardboard insert in to even allow the box to retain basic structural integrity. That's pretty unfortunate.
Yeah, we'll get in our conclusion, we'll speak a little more to our issues we take with the box. That's really about it in terms of the interior. Yeah, without that, it would really be incredibly flimsy. I think a big issue is just the top here, how it's already falling apart. Opening it, you feel it's really bending right here. In terms of the art on the back, the art on the box is nice. It's a good depiction of what the game comes with. Nice description here, not too long. Just telling you what Legend of the Five Rings is, a beginner game is, just a little blurb on that. So, moving on from the box.
First thing you're going to see is the read this first document. It just lets you know what a role-playing game is, how you might go about assigning roles for play, and then it gives you an example of what might happen as you're playing. If you're just not familiar with that kind of thing, you get an extended example of what things might look like, which is nice in this kind of product because it's aimed at least part of the demographic is people who are new to role-playing. You also get a tiny little primer here about the setting with some really nice art there at the bottom. So there you go.
Yeah,
there's
beautiful
that.
So next up are the two booklets here.
Again, excellent art. Those who are familiar with the LCG will recognize the art on the rulebook. But while I fault them a lot for recycling their art assets, I do not fault them at all for reusing that art piece because it is excellent.
No, not at all. Like that is one of my absolute favorites of the entire game. So I'm quite pleased to see that, especially in a nice large booklet, full color, full bleed art, beautiful art.
Let's start with the adventure book here. We'll just page through so you can get an idea what it's going to look like. Here again, you have a brief discussion of assigning, someone's going to have to be the game master, someone's going to have to play the game. Got your credits. You get a description of the contents of the box, and then you get a description of how to use the book. Here you go. We've got text for the adventure. Some nice art. And you can see that both the person running the game and the players of the game are kind of being walked through the rules as they proceed. Again, here's a recycled art asset.
The unicorn favored mount, yeah.
Here you have basically how you do leveling up in the system at a natural stopping point. And here you have the second half of the adventure. So this is NPC stats. That's how they're depicted in this system. And then you have some additional things you can add to the adventure if you so wish at the end here. Got information about how you can download the second adventure there for free, and then an ad for the core book. Here you have a handy little chart to reference the very basics of the system. Here's the rule book. It is worth noting the bindings on the spine here are a little better. It's a little sturdier of a book. And again, just a page through it. There's nice art. And you can actually see that the spine is stronger just because it wants to close with a little bit more pressure, which is nice.
Part of that due to it being a longer book. This one I'm not sure they would have been practical to do that with this size.
Yeah, that is certainly fair. A lot of recycled art in this one.
Makoto Totori.
But to be fair, this is a condensed beginner rulebook, so you're probably not going to commission original art for this particular item, and that is fine. But yeah, there's Levy.
The abandoned or secluded temple.
So you can see you're getting a decent amount of content here, even in a condensed rulebook. Coming in at about 47 pages of actual content, and then you've got that same reference chart on the back here. I really do like that because as you're running the adventure, you're not going to be able to frequently be accessing the back of that second book. So it's nice that it's on both. there you go.
So next up,
There's that one.
Next up are the character sheets here, and there are 4 of them. So first up, the top character here is Akoto Masako, the Bushi of the Lion Clan.
Excellent art here.
Yeah, really great art. Covering the full front cover, really nice. You get the Lion Clan emblem there.
Here, you have basic setting information,
which is really, really useful if you are new to L5R and new to the setting. You'll get a really nice and fairly concise background here.
You also get basic introduction to the intro adventure. Here you have a simplified version of your character sheet. And then once you are more familiar with the system, here you have the full character sheet. Just a little more complex. It's just to make sure you don't get overwhelmed right off the bat. And then here you have your character background, and a really nice feature is bullet points on who, as a player, will have fun playing this character. So people can just look at the back of the character folios and figure out which character is for them.
Yeah. When you're first presenting the character folios to your players, that's really nice. They can pick their character fairly quickly, and you'll get into the game sooner.
So here we have a Phoenix Clan character. It should also be noted there's an even gender split, so both of these characters are female characters.
Yeah, I think it's great they did that.
These I'll just flip through more quickly, but you can see the same thing is going on here.
So we've seen both the female characters. So now, despite his long flowing locks, this is a male character, Doji Ren.
Great art again.
And then lastly, we have Togashi Yoshi, and this is a monk of the Dragon Clan.
And you can see there's one character offered of each kind of class in the game. You've got a Bushi or a warrior, Shujenga or like a wizard, I guess. You've got a courtier, and you've got a monk.
Yeah, so the monk and the Shujenga more on the spiritual side, and then you have the more sort of practical elements of Rokugani society, if you will.
All right, let's get those maps out.
Yeah, next up is the map, and this is a really great feature. So let's start with the map of Rokugan itself here to orient yourself.
This is a great include. This is the kind of thing that's going to be useful for all types of players. So even if you're playing games of your own creation using the core rules or the condensed rules that come here, or if you're using other published adventures, this is a detailed map of Rokugan. There are all kinds of locations denoted on it. Beautiful map. And you're always going to have use for this. In the context of the adventure that's included here, it's really nice. You can use the map to show people where their character comes from in Rokugan, even if they have no idea about the setting. They can figure out kind of how far they've had to travel and where roughly they come from, and like, oh, I come from a mountainous region, or oh, I live by the sea. Just really nice to be able to do that.
Yeah. For example, like it'll display the territorial lands of each clan. So if you pick the Bushi of the Lion Clan, you see the Lion lands are in here, somewhat central in the Empire. We got Dragon up here, Unicorn, the Phoenix over here in the Northeast. So really nice. If you're a fan of the game, of the card game, you're honestly just gonna love this map. It's really nice. It shows off the depicts the Empire, the Emerald Empire, beautifully. So let's flip this over. and now have a look at maps of cities. So we have Suma here.
So this is the setting for the first adventure. You can see marked locations, really nice. You can show this to your players and they can orient themselves in terms of where they are. And here is a map of the second adventure that comes as a PDF. It does not come as a physical product in the beginner box, but it is nice that they planned ahead and have offered this as support to you if you choose to download that PDF of the free adventure and run it as a follow-up.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of the maps here. I think they're really well done, and I find that they're really useful in just feeling the theme of the game and really visualizing where you are, what's going on, where is your character, where are they traveling, where they're at. So next up, and how you'll do so, you can actually just dump these out onto the map here, are through these tokens.
Of course, there's the customary proof of purchase token.
Still waiting to see what kind of use will be made for that, if any. Probably nothing, but we'll see.
So there are tokens provided for each of the pre-generated player characters. And then there are random tokens for various NPCs and adversaries. I will say that there are not clear representations of all the NPCs in the first adventure. But there are a massive horde of goblins who play no role in that adventure.
Oh yeah, look at them all. They're swarming.
Yeah, and you can see there's duplicates of a number of them. So for example, you've got like duplicate monks. I believe there's a second version of that guy somewhere. Yeah, there he is. So yeah, they give you a lot of generic characters and
they have a few here. From the
a few more individual looking ones, but yeah, it is nice.
Tengu Sensei.
Yeah, you can see here are some of the pre-generated character tokens.
And the other two are I got the other two out here.
So that's nice; those are provided. But yeah, it would be nice to see tokens with clearer ties to the actual adventure you're provided with. But if you're making up your own adventures or you're running future adventures, I'm sure a lot of these tokens will come in handy. You can have your goblin horde attacking, or that you can use, these to represent characters, even if they're not a perfect match. So it's nice they were included. I just would have liked to see some clearer ties to the adventure that's provided.
Yeah, or as we'll get more into in the conclusion, perhaps a chart or a label, something depicting the name of what each character is, and then you can better put a face to the name, know if you're using the right token. So last but certainly not least here are the dice, and you get 5 black ones and 5 white ones.
Yeah. If your group doesn't mind sharing dice, this will be more than enough. It'll just slow gameplay down a tiny bit as people will have to take turns rolling the dice, but given that I'm pretty sure these have about a $15 Canadian price point just on their own, not everyone's going to want to pick those up. And it's great that they provided quite a few of them here.
They are really nice quality dice, I will say. They have a good feel to them, a good size. They roll well.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can see there's a variety of little notations on them. We'll talk about those a little bit more in the conclusion. But you can see there's 2 types of dice that you're provided with. And that just represents the difference between using your ring ability and using your skill in whatever task you're trying to achieve. And there's different dice to represent each of those different things.
Yeah, I believe it's black is the ring ability and white being your skill.
So there you have it. There are the components that come in the All5R RPG beginner game box.
So let's wrap it up with some final thoughts here. First, let's just start with the cons.
Obviously, the quality of the box is a major con, and I would actually put it as the highest con, because the components are small. The components are mostly like the character folios, for instance, are only a few sheets of paper. Those are difficult to independently store. You can't really put those on a bookshelf.
And you don't want them to get damaged or something.
And they are if you're like jamming them into your bookshelf and they're falling around. And really, with every other role-playing game beginner box that I've seen, the company invested in a reasonable standard of cardboard to make it a sturdy product that you could actually use to store the components that it comes with.
It's really all you ask for out of a game box, really. So if it's not doing that, then that is an issue.
And at this price point, I will say this price point is significantly higher than a lot of the other companies are charging for a beginner box. I'm not saying it's bad value because you are getting the dice, but if you compare the quality of product that other companies are putting out for a lower price point, that is disappointing.
Well, and then you want a better box out of that if you're going to be paying more. So
absolutely. Other cons, the fact that the character tokens don't strongly connect to the adventure in question is a problem.
Yeah. So I know just like the immediate one that jumps to my mind is tokens of like, if you're familiar with the card game, the Goblin Sneak. It's a goblin, and that goblin is not existent in the story of the beginner game here. So they're printing it for future adventures, but it's not actually something you're gonna be using unless you're then buying something else, I imagine, or coming up with your own story perhaps. But
yeah, actually on that note about the tokens, not only do they, for the most part, not strongly connect to the adventure that's provided, and I will say it would have been very useful if there was clearly a token for all of the NPC competitors provided.
Yeah, I was actually just thinking that, especially I'm blanking on his name, but the Mantis Clan character.
Yeah. I think for some of them, if you look at them, you can be like, this is a young-looking character. They kind of look like they belong to that clan. I think this is the character I'm supposed to use to depict that one. But there's not a representation of all of them, and there's not... it's not at all obvious, even for the ones that I think are supposed to be represented, which ones they are. And I think that would have been really easy to do.
Well, it could have just added to the rulebook even, where like, oh, here's like a little depiction, like picture name.
Yeah, and that's something that a lot of other role-playing games do. They give you a picture of the NPC, and you can show it to your players, so your players kind of know, oh, okay, that's that guy.
And you can visualize it and stuff. Yeah.
Especially in an adventure with so many NPCs that need to be remembered, and you need to remember who they are, and they're playing a major role in relation to what's going on. It is a drawback that the product isn't giving you that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think there are a lot of, from having not played through the entirety of the first adventure, but well, I guess half of it up to the break point. There are a lot of characters. There's a lot of names. If you're new to Legend of the Five Rings, new to the lore, the names are and the names aren't even. They're a little more different to you. Like it might be hard. It might be a little bit difficult to follow. So that is a potential complaint there.
Yeah, particularly to Western players. That's probably a fair comment. The only other major drawback. Well, sorry, there are two more major drawbacks to the product. The first is that there is, as is typical of FFG products, quite a bit of recycled art assets going on here. I am pretty sure most of the pre-generated player characters are original artwork, which is nice, but we recognize that at least one of them is recycled art from... I actually don't know which came first. It's possible...
I think that this actually came first, because it's from the Dragon... I'm pretty sure it's the Dragon character from the Dragon Clan Pack, and that Clan Pack is... It came out 2019, so it's fairly recent. I believe this did come first.
But yeah, again, it's a little disappointing that a company the size of FFG recycles their art assets to the extent that they do.
Yeah, especially like Legend of the Five Rings, such like a vibrant setting. It's exciting to see really nice new art pieces. So the art is great, but it would be nice to just even have more variants there.
Yeah, absolutely. I have no complaints about the art quality. It's simply that there is some cost cutting going on there. And I mean, from what I know, their RPG department was under some financial pressure just from the company as a whole. So I don't know if I blame them, but I definitely blame the structural incentives that were being placed. And then the final drawback is again something that can really only be described as cost cutting, and that's the fact that there is a second adventure included, but you have to download it as a PDF and either use it as a PDF or print it out at your own expense. And at the price point of 45 Canadian dollars, I really don't think that represents reasonable value. Again, if you contrast this to the products that other game companies are putting out. So, for example, in the Star Trek Adventures starter set that Modiphius puts out, they give you 3 adventures in there. They're all printed out. In the Call of Cthulhu starter set by Chaosium, they give you 3 adventures in there. They're all printed out. Even in relation to future planned products. So, for example, Chaosium is going to make a Pendragon 6th edition starter set that's going to come out at some point next year. But they've already communicated that there will be 3 printed adventures in there for you. So I don't want to say the industry standard is 3 printed adventures are provided for you, because obviously there is variance. But when you look at what these companies are doing at a lower price point, they are providing you with more printed product. And I mean, Chaosium has very high production quality in their products. Modiphius has pretty good production quality in their products. So it's not as if they're giving you black and white printed paper, and that's why you're getting more. So I do like that there are 2 lengthy adventures included in here, but I really dislike that you're only getting a paper copy of one of them. And that's doubly annoying because FFG is one of the few publishers of role-playing games that doesn't offer PDF versions of its products. And that, I believe, the reason that they justify that is they're concerned about piracy. But pretty much every other role-playing game company is able to do that. Pretty much every other role-playing game company seems to be making reasonable profits off of their PDF line. And then the fact that you are releasing a physical copy only role-playing game line, and then not providing all of those components as physical copy and expecting your player base to print them out at their own expense. Obviously, if you print it out on your inkjet printer, it's not going to look as nice.
Also, some people just might not have readily available access to a printer. Like, sure, you can go somewhere and get it printed, but I mean, that does take some time and effort. So
yeah, that's a definite downside. But there are definitely also things we like about the product.
One thing of note before we move on to that is, in terms of the second adventure being a PDF, then is that so a good question might be, like, do you put in a code to access that then, or like how do you access it?
Oh yeah, in terms of accessing that, FFG has done a good job making that available to the players. If you just go on their website, go basically look for the product. So you're gonna go Legend of the Five Rings role-playing game, and then you just scroll down. You're gonna see a lot of the freely available PDFs are easily accessible there. So that shouldn't be a problem to access if you do have internet access and a computer or even a phone. It is just the problem that it isn't available as in print when your whole game line is only available in print.
Yeah. So yeah, there are a lot of things we like about the game. So now moving on to the pros. Number 1 for me is the setting. I think the setting is really fresh and exciting, and it's not based on like a pre-existing universe. Well, I mean, AEG having Legend of the Five Rings before FFG, but it is like, it's not based on a movie or something. It's very fresh, vibrant. in terms of the game, like Hal said, you get the adventures are nice and lengthy, like even playing up to the break points. We got quite a bit of playtime from that, and that's even only about half of the first adventure. So
Yeah, I would expect most groups will get about 6 hours out of the first adventure, which is the physical adventure provided. Just in terms of the setting, just a fun fact, it was created by John Wick, actually. So not only has he blessed us with great action movies, but he blessed us with the Legend of the Five Rings setting.
really, I had no idea.
Yeah. No, if you head on to Wikipedia, John Wick is the creator of the Legend of the Five Rings setting. But yeah, aside from that, what I find really useful here, and what I actually think this product does better than some of the other beginner boxes is that if you are running the game or if you are playing the game, there is actually no requirement to read through the condensed rulebook that is provided. The system is completely taught through that first adventure. So if you're running it, it's less for you to read. And then if you're playing it, the way the adventure is written and structured just makes it very natural for you to be able to learn the game that way. And this is one of the best examples of that I've seen. It is also not a boring adventure. It's a very interesting adventure that is also doing an excellent job at teaching the system.
Yeah, I think I can bring coming at this product from someone who hasn't really played many role-playing games. I haven't played much of that. I think the system is really intuitive, like Hal said. If you are new to role-playing, I would say don't be intimidated by this. Like, especially as a player, if there's someone else who's maybe going to run the game for you, it's really you get your character sheet, your portfolio, you have your skills, your stats, the rings, but really once you read over your story, there's not too much to read. The game itself, it's like Hal said, it's very gradual, it's incremental. Like you won't have to know how to do a whole bunch of different things right off the bat. It just starts with a more simple story, and then you learn the skills as you go. So it's really not something, if you are new to role playing, I would say don't be intimidated by it. It's very accessible, I think.
Yeah, okay, so on the topic of the character folios, I really like that inclusion. So basically, as we've shown, you have the beautiful character art on the front, and then you have the folio in 2 steps. So you have a simplified character sheet, which you're going to tell your players to look at the start of the game. There's not an overwhelming amount of information on them. It's just the basic necessities they need in the early part of the adventure, and those are the core parts of the system. Once you get to the break point, you're going to get them to flip over to the more complex and full form of the character sheet, and there are more things going on there, but you've already been able, probably over 2 to 3 hours, you've been able to show them the basics of the system on the simplified character sheet. They're not going to be overwhelmed. They're now going to be able to flip that character sheet over, and they're going to see the added complexity, but it's not going to be overwhelming because they're already going to have hopefully mastered the basics of that character sheet and the basics of the system.
Yeah, I think that was done really well. I feel like at that point of the game, you are ready. As a player, I think you really are ready to add more and add interesting different abilities, or you get to make choices. Where do I want to allocate my points on? What do I want to upgrade, or do I want to unlock this ability? And you really are ready for that at that point of the game. And I think then, I think it's the perfect moment to introduce it. Had they done that off the bat, it may have been somewhat overwhelming. So I think it's done very well.
And additionally, on the topic of the system and its accessibility to new players or people who don't want overwhelming complexity in their role-playing game, it is an asset that really there's only 4 things you can roll on the dice. And there are, different ways you can use some of those results, but they're listed on the character sheet for you. One of them is a blank as well, so that's basically just a non-result.
Yeah, you're not going to have to.
And then you have your success, your exploding success, and your opportunity.
Yeah, and those, sometimes there will be like 2 of them on that face of the dice. Like you may have an exploding success with an opportunity, I think, and various combinations of that. But
yeah,
it is still just those same 3 symbols really just being put together in different configurations.
Sorry, there is actually one more. You can also roll a stress, which is like
Oh,
the
right,
negative.
right.
There can be negative things on your dice. But again, it's pretty simple. There's really only 5 things you can roll, and your character sheet shows you all the ramifications of taking a dice that has one of those things on it.
And I actually think the stress is great because as a player, it forces you to make interesting decisions. Do I want to roll in a new dice? Ooh, I can't really afford taking the stress. Like, it's a nice element, I think.
Yeah. Other than that, I think it's a fair price point for the box. I think it could have been a better product at that price point, but I don't think people will be disappointed buying this.
No, not at all. And I think one more thing we should actually add is that there are 4 pre-printed character sheets, but maybe if you're a fan of the card game and there's a certain clan that you really like and you're a player of that clan and you want to use like that one of those you want to use a character from that clan, you have that option available. Yes, it is online, and again, that runs into the issue of having to print it yourself, but the character sheets it would not be a lengthy printing, so if you do have your own printer, you maybe won't. Well, if you're printing in a color, it might use a fair amount of ink, but you have the option of a character from each of the 7 main clans, and I think that's really nice that you at least have the option. It would have been nice had those additional 3 character sheets been provided in the game, but that being said, I think the 4 that they provide are make the most sense for the story, like we talked about.
You know, to be honest, I'm actually fine with those 3 not being in there, because with a beginner box, you're probably it's a product that a lot of people who have never run the game are going to be picking up, and they're not going to have the familiarity with the system or the judgment of having run multiple games to understand what you should not allow your players to do. And if you're experienced with running role-playing games, handing people the scorpion character or the unicorn character, you're going to be able to run with that. But those are characters who are actually not going to work intuitively or even work well in the adventure. And you're also actually introducing whole new dynamics. You're potentially increasing the odds of generating conflict between your players if you hand out those characters. The crab character maybe could have been included, just because it is viable that you have 5 players. That's not a crazy amount of players to have. And the crab character would not be a character that would have trouble interacting with what's going on. It's just the unicorn and the scorpion character are a little more problematic to integrate for someone who's not experienced in this kind of thing. So I'm fine that they didn't provide those 2, but I do like that the option is available if you want to do that.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And then, I mean, it also, I think to counter what I initially said, it does limit like analysis paralysis where you have 7 different characters to pick. Oh, I don't know what to play. I got to read through them all. Like it keeps it easier to just get into the game. So I think that's nice.
Yeah, and in theory, you are getting people and forcing in a way people to play kind of each of the major types of characters that you can play in this system. So you have like a Bushi character, you have a Shujenga character, you have a monk character, and you have a courtier character. So with these 4 characters, they're showing off each of the classes of the system, as it were, and each of the kind of different play styles that you can have. They're also showing off really probably the 4 primary clans of the setting.
Yeah, an argument could be made for Scorpion, but again, having that character there poses some issues. So.
Yeah. So I actually like the choice that they made to present the characters that way and just take away the complexity of someone picking up a beginner game and not being able to make informed choices that are going to ensure they have a good game.
Yeah, I think even from a player's standpoint, actually, the more I think about it, it's nice to not have an overwhelming decision right off the bat. You kind of want to be able to grab one of those and get into your game.
So yeah, that about wraps up our thoughts. Of course, we will offer reviews of the adventures that we play within this system.
You offering the...
Yeah, just from 2 different perspectives. So as a player and as the person running the game. We'll probably be able to put up the first first review of the first adventure that comes in print, maybe in a week or two.
Yeah.
And others will follow after that as we're able to get them up based on just scheduling and ability to play through those. But hopefully those will be useful to people interested in the system, and particularly useful to people planning on running these adventures.
Yeah, I think that'll be could be of great benefit to you, and yeah, I'll be here to just offer a player's perspective on it as well. So if you have someone else who's interested in running the game and you're just looking at what's the experience of playing, I can hopefully provide that.
Yeah, final thoughts on the product. Is it a good purchase? And who would you recommend this product to, if anyone?
First off, yes, I think it's a good purchase. I really like the game. I had a lot of fun even just playing that first half of the first adventure. I was already immersed. I would recommend it to either someone who has never played a role-playing game before. I think this is a great introduction. So if you're new to role-playing, it's something you've been considering, maybe you've never even really heard of it all that much, this is something to check out. This is a product to check out. And another one is someone who likes the card game. If you like the Legend of the Five Ring LCG, you are a big fan of the setting, of the theme, I think you'll find this a lot of fun. I think the story, there'll be characters in the story that can appear that maybe are in the game even. That can be exciting. Locations, themes. Like Hal said, the different classes, you'll see those traits from the game: Shujenga, Bushi, Courtier, Monk, etc. If you're a fan of the game and you have people who are interested in role-playing games, or maybe you're all new to it, it's something to try out, and I absolutely recommend it.
Yeah, in addition, I agree with everything you said. I don't regret this purchase. I do think slightly better value could have been offered at the price point, but I don't regret buying this. I think it's a good product. I think it's a good product for those people you suggested. I would also say that if you are experienced in role playing and you're looking to try out just new systems, new kind of genres, so like you kind of have like a fantasy kind of genre going here, maybe you normally role play in different kinds of settings. If you're someone who likes kind of narrative focused systems, this is going to be really good. The system generates interesting situations. It generates consistently situations where characters are succeeding at a cost, or characters are suffering, kind of like emotional breaks from the stress of the situation at hand.
Yeah, I can't remember what it's called, but it's like losing face or something. Yeah, if you get too much stress, there will be consequences.
Yeah, so if you're someone who, or if your group enjoys playing in kind of narrative-focused systems, not incredibly rules-heavy, this will be a good game for you to pick up. Alternatively, even if you normally play, say, like D&D, like a more kind of clunky system, but you kind of like the fantasy genre, this, again, could be a good system to pick up, because it's just going to show you a different kind of role-playing game system that's focused on different things, but it's still maybe in the genre that you're going to like.
Yeah, and that like maybe you're comfortable with and interested in.
Yeah, and I always would recommend to people that it's if you only ever play like one role-playing game system or one genre, it's always worth just sampling in other genres, so you can get a better idea of like what is available as a whole, and also get a better idea of what you yourself like, because if you've only ever tried like one kind of thing, you actually may really like the different thing, but you've just never exposed yourself to it.
Yeah, and then even if you don't like it, maybe that gives you greater appreciation for the one that you've been playing, and I think there's just good things to come from that.
So yeah, this is a good product. We both recommend that pretty broad groups of people check it out, actually.
Yeah.
In addition to reviewing those adventures, we'll review some of the like supplements or the core rulebook. That'll be a little bit further in the future, but of course, stay tuned for that. We will provide that. And then if you are familiar with the system, if you're familiar with this product, if you're familiar with other products, please, don't hesitate to let us know in the comments. What kind of adventures in this game that you like, what are experiences that you've had, what are things you like or dislike about the system or even this product, and then your own recommendations to people considering checking it out.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't be shy to voice your opinions in the comments if you'd like to.
Yeah, and then if you liked this video, give it a like. If you really liked it,
hit subscribe.
Yeah, and until next time, happy gaming.